Hi everyone, welcome back to Scrapping Scotland. I'm out in the workshop today, as you can see, a very messy workshop, and we are hunting for copper, guys, today. So we're going to be hunting copper on PCB boards and taking off all the very small components that contain copper. So there are lots of different components on boards that contain copper, and we will be going through them today, and we're going to be filling up a little bucket. So my little bucket here, okay, and we're going to fill that with copper components from PCB boards. So I have various ones around the shop, some boards sitting here, there's other boards sitting over here. Okay, so there's lots of boards, okay, and just really need to go through them and get as many as we possibly can. Okay, so well, a lot of these boards as well, there's little kind of aluminium components as well, and I'll be taking them off as well at the same time, just to get the aluminium out of these boards, and I'll put them in my little aluminium pile. Okay, so thanks for coming along, hope you enjoy this little journey. I will speed up obviously all the removing stuff from boards, and then we'll take you through them so you can see the different components that are there. Okay, enjoy the video, guys. Okay guys, I'm going to finish up the rest of these boards and I'll bring you back when our bucket's full. Okay guys, it's fair to say that I didn't fill the bucket. Was out there for a couple of hours and it was just taking too long. Had too many boards to still go through and just wasn't able to fill the bucket. Now if I went through all the boards I would have filled the bucket easily, but it was just taking too much time. So what I did do is I took some samples, some of the components off of the boards, just so I can show you basically what you're looking for when you're going through the boards to pull off the copper components. Okay, so I've got some examples here that I'd like to show you. Okay, so here's a bit of a selection of the stuff that I was pulling off the boards. So as you can see, there's a bit of variety here. Now most of them are transformers. Okay, they may be slightly different from transformers that you're used to seeing. If I show you a traditional transformer, there is a traditional transformer. Okay, with the metal fins. Obviously break them off and get to the copper reels that are inside. Okay, so that's a traditional transformer. But these guys are also transformers. Okay, so as you can see, they are still copper bearing transformers. Okay, but they're all various different sizes, shapes, but they all contain copper. Okay, but it's not just transformers. There are other components on there as well. Some like cooling rings. You can see here, these are just direct copper rings that pulled straight off the board. Okay, all nice copper, all still number 2 copper, but as you can see, just pulled directly off the board, so you know, not encased in ferrite or anything like that. These ones commonly you get off your TVs. As you can see, there's a nice reel in the middle. On the top and on the bottom, they can be harder to actually get the copper out, and you may have to kind of break them open to get the copper out of that. But in the centre there, you can break the top off, break the bottom off, and you can just unreel that. Okay, so other ones we have these little copper reels, as you can see, and they can vary in thickness. Sometimes copper's a little bit thicker than others, so you can see that's pretty much the same as the last one, whereas if you look at this one, the copper is a lot finer, a lot thinner. Okay, but again, you just break the edges out and you can unreel that copper. Most of these things, they're encased in, you know, surrounded anyway by, there's a piece of ferrite that goes around the edge there, and the bottom piece is just plastic. Okay, here's another example. Very similar, just a copper reel. Okay, well, you can see how here that it all adds up pretty quickly. Now, as I say, all these transformers do come in different shapes and sizes. There's quite a thin one. Okay, but you can see inside there, nice copper. There's a kind of rope-like copper, this one. Similar to that one. And then, you know, on a component like that, you really just need to break off the ferrite around the edge to see what the copper is like. Now, some of these actually, the copper is encased in like a string, and if it is like that, to be honest, I don't try and recover it. I just put it in my insulated copper pile. So there's an example of that. Yeah, so it is nice copper wire, but there is like a string that goes around the copper. Okay, makes it a little bit more difficult. You can unwind it, but it just takes forever. So took long enough trying to get the copper components off the boards. It's not something that I'm going to spend time doing. Sometimes you actually get both. So as you can see, we've got stuff with a string going around the copper on the edge here, but behind that
there's lovely copper wire. Okay, so there's all different varieties. There's all different shapes and sizes, as I say. It's a very small one, but there is still copper wire in there. Okay, you can see in that piece there on this side, you can see through to the copper. There are other copper reels, as you can see here. There's a nice thick copper reel. You can see how thick the copper is on that. Okay, a bit of unwinding for that one to get all the copper off. That's a nice example. You do get a lot smaller ones with slightly thicker copper, but it is just a small copper reel. Okay, and then actually you'll see them encased in like this rubber that's really easy to pull off, and sometimes they can be mistaken for capacitors, your aluminium capacitors. So do keep your eyes out, and you know, do double check, because as I say, this is a copper reel just like that. Okay, so just keep your eye out for them. As you can see, ones like this, you see that sitting on a board like that, it looks like an aluminium capacitor. Yeah, it's very similar. But again, that's a little reel of copper as well. These ones are usually encased in a little hexagon of ferrite. But again, just check the top, make sure you see that kind of circular top encased in a little hexagon. Then inside there's a little copper reel. Okay, even ones like this, that's just a ferrite outer casing, and inside, again, similar to these, a little copper reel. Okay, we also get ones like this. So from top of the board, you can't really see what that is. Again, that's a little spindle that has copper going all the way around it. Okay, and you can actually see the copper at the bottom there poking out. Okay, sometimes that looks kind of like a fuse or something like that, or a different kind of component, but there's copper surrounding all of that. Okay, so what I'm going to do with these guys is I'm going to take some of them, the casings off of them, the tape, and take off the ferrite, and I'll give you a little bit of a better look at what they are. Okay. Okay, so we've stripped a few of them down now, just so we can have a bit of a closer look at the ones that were either wrapped in ferrite or in yellow tape. Always seems to be yellow tape that is wrapped in. As you can see, this one it's got a kind of white edge, but underneath that it's yellow tape. Yeah. These ones I actually just thought I'd highlight because, as you can see, is a nice really copper there, but that copper is only one layer thin or thick, and then there's another layer of paper, then underneath that there'll be another layer of copper, then another layer of paper, and another layer of copper, and actually you can get 4, 5, 6 layers of copper and paper. So you do have to unravel the thing until you get as much copper as you can, and sometimes the copper varies in thickness as you go through it, as you start unwinding it. So it's just something to be aware of. The ones that look really thick, sometimes it's a lot of plastic or paper that's there, and there's not as much copper as you would like. Okay, so as you can see, there's a few of them there I've got that I take apart. That one's just the paper stuck to it, the yellow plastic, it's just like sellotape really, stuck to it quite badly, that one. But again, as you can see, there is quite a few layers in there, so there will be, again, maybe several layers of copper, several layers of paper. Okay, and there's another one. You can see some of the copper at the bottom, and a very thin strip that goes around there. Okay, other ones a little bit more productive. So that was the big one that we saw at the start. That kind of rope-like copper. It's not a great deal of copper, to be honest, that's on it. It looks more than what it is, but it's still a nice little reel of copper, yeah. Okay, got that one. It's a nice reel there as well. Okay, and as you unravel these, they can be, you know, 1 meter long, 2 meters long, 5 meters long. It really depends, yeah, how long it can be. Again, there's one that's multiple layers. There's some of the other shaped ones. This is only one layer of copper. You can see a lot of it is this kind of rope-like copper. We've got one there that's obviously got the paper underneath it, so there's probably another thin layer of copper underneath that. This layer here, there's no more paper on this side, and that'll unravel all the way to the core. Yeah. Another one. This was the one that had kind of both the copper that was covered in the kind of string, and underneath that obviously was the nice bright copper wire. Okay, so a couple of nice layers in there of copper. That was the one that we thought looked a little bit like a fuse. As you can see, it's a nice copper coil. Another example, a little transformer. Okay, that's kind of the similar look to the kind of normal transformers. You take one of these things apart, you know, it is similar kind of look to that, obviously in a little bit of a bigger scale. These are copper reels. You can just stick a little something in there, little end of a screwdriver or something like that, and then you can just pull the copper off and it'll unwrap itself. Nice and easy. That is nice copper on there. Okay. I wanted to show you this one because instead of the kind of string covering the copper, this one is a plastic wrap that goes around the copper, and there's just no way to get that wrap off as far as I know, and I leave it on and I stick it with my insulated copper wire along with the string stuff. Okay, couple of other things. So the coils you've already seen, the little donuts, that is just wrapped around ferrite. So, you know, if you give that a hammer there, then you can just unpeel it nice and easy. Okay, or even with a pair of snips and just snip it in half. Works nice and easy. And then finally we come to our little copper reels. Okay, so those were the little kind of copper reels. All shapes and sizes. Not actually broke that one open. We'll do that one another time. But that is just again a little ferrite casing. There'll be copper in there as well. We'll stick that in the recovery bucket. But you know, as you can see, some of these are really nice thick reels. Yeah, so that's not just a thin layer of copper. That's actually a nice little reel. Okay, and in terms of length, that'll be quite long. Okay, I'd estimate maybe about 10 meters or something like that you'd probably get out of that. You'd be surprised the amount of copper you can actually recover from these things. So that's it, guys. That's me just taking you through a whistle-stop tour of some of the components that sit on PCBs, power boards, motherboards, and some of the copper that you can recover from them. So I hope you found that useful. Let me know if it's something you do, if you recover the copper from your boards, or if you just sell the boards as they are. It is time consuming, I can't lie, it is time consuming. You know, for the amount of copper you get back, it might not be worth it to you guys. To me, again, being a hobby scrapper, you know, I just sit watching TV, unwrapping this stuff, and, you know, sometimes, you know, you get a good bit of copper recovery. You know, you can make a few kilo, at least, from some of your boards, depending on the amount of boards that you've got. And not all boards contain copper components. A lot of your kind of standard PC motherboards don't have much on them. It's really the power boards, the power units, that you get a lot of these copper reels on, because obviously that's where the transformers come into play, changing the power. Okay, so again, if you enjoyed that, guys, please hit that like button, please hit that subscribe button. You've been watching Scrapping Scotland with the Scottish Scrapper. Thank you for coming along, and we'll see you on the next Teardown. Bye now.